and my Marbella moments here in the Euro Weekly News. Check it out. So there's your horoscope and everything else. This will be my copy. Thank you very much.
Very positive. Right, can you all pull...
And the most glamorous table here. And I want this jacket. I want it for me. You're always so glamorous. Beautiful ladies. Absolutely wonderful.
I said about you last week. Yeah, I really didn't know it was you. But we saw.
So glamorous, beautiful. And that's why I come to the Grapevine luncheons. Because, and here you have our ex-model, Sandy D. And her baby girl. And Janice. And our lovely Amaka. Grapevine lunches organised by our fabulous Cindy Barnes, hiding behind her beautiful golden locks, at a Small World Cafe in Mars, organising the best lunches, and our lovely Angela from Quad. Hello, sweetheart, my favourite people. And look at you. Like, everyone's blonde here. No, thank God I turned blonde. And the wonderful staff here at Small World Cafe, and the head table here.
On this side.
The only gentleman, I believe, in the room, you lucky boy. And our speaker today, and we'll be having a private chat with her in just a moment. And here we are with Cindy Barnes, the wonderful Grapevine girl herself. Cindy, I don't go to many events, but yours, when I can, are a must. Here at Small World Cafe today, a lovely turnout in spite of the current situation.
Yes, we are following all of the rules, keeping our distance between the tables. The restaurant has very strict rules. And we are, as you said, Small World Cafe. This is our third lunch here. The food has been exceptional. We are so happy with everything. We love our new venue. And we've had some great speakers. We've had fashion shows. And today's talk was all about finding your purpose in life, especially during this lockdown period. So many people are lost. So many people are sad, lonely, depressed. And there's no need. You need to be positive. Turn it around. Write that book that you've always wanted to write. Spend time with your family and friends. Phone people. Mend relationships. There's just so much that is positive about life. And we just need to follow the rules. It's hard, but we need to follow the rules, and the sun will eventually shine. And I'm saying that on a day where it's raining, and we've got another lot of rain for the next 10 days. But anyway, Nicole, thank you for joining us today. It's always lovely to have you at one of the Grapevine lunches.
Well, I love coming. It's always a wonderful group of women. How many years now have you been running your Grapevine Girl Luncheons?
Gosh, I think you came to the 20th anniversary, so it must be about 23 years now.
That's what I was counting in the cars. I can't believe I was flying.
Life goes in the blink of an eye, doesn't it?
It absolutely does,
Yeah.
but you've been here for many years, you've got many friends, and that's very satisfying, because basically that's what Marbella's are about, isn't it? It's making good friends and that support of the resident community.
Exactly. It's so international. You get to meet people from all over the world. Not a boring moment to be had.
Well, thank you so much for letting me join you all. Lovely as always, and I can't wait to have a little chat with Kezia.
Great. Thanks again.
I'm sitting now with Kezia Kaur. She's been giving a talk today at the Grapevine Luncheon here at the Small World Cafe. I just asked Kezia what her surname is, and she said Kaur, K-A-U-R, and then launched on this beautiful story about what it means, princess, and then she's you tell me, darling, because it was beautiful.
Okay, so my background is I'm from India and I'm a Sikh, and all Sikh women have Kaur in their middle name, and men have Singh. and basically Kaur means princess and Singh means warrior or lion. And one of the reasons I think that the women have been given Kaur, that it's one of the, I think, only Eastern religions where women are never considered second-class citizens. In fact, fathers, brothers, husbands, men in general, your sons, they adore their women. We're not covered up. We're encouraged to wear the most beautiful fabrics. We're encouraged to be educated. We're encouraged to be our very best. We also are taught to be feminine and really not try to be a man. Let the men be the men and you be super feminine. It doesn't mean that you can't be independent. It doesn't mean you can't have a career. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent. You can be all of that, but embrace the woman that you are.
That is beautiful, and I think if that was made a specific point in all cultures, we'd all be a lot better off.
Absolutely. I've always liked blue and pink. I love that men do the blue jobs and women do the pink, and then occasionally you overlap. You know, some of the best chefs are men. So of course that pink job goes, you know. But I think it's wonderful when a woman, a strong woman, she's, you know, vibrant, she could be head of a company, she's CEO, but she's also super feminine. You don't need to become a man. Let the men be the men, because most women, we want that romance. We want men to open our doors for us. We want them to not necessarily always be the provider, but at least that person we can depend on, and they depend on us too. So even though with the modern woman and the 80s and the 90s and, you know, the big shoulder pads and us wearing suits, it's wonderful. But I think it did destroy a little bit the thing about women staying feminine and men also knowing how to treat us. So perhaps it's time now to go back to the blue and pink and allow the men to be men and the women to be women.
We don't have to be man-like in order to be capable or valued.
Absolutely not. We have enough value, and a real gentleman, he knows that. So he will treasure you for exactly who you are.
That's absolutely fabulous. In your talk today, I love the part about the 3 A's, and one was accepting, and then adjusting, and then accommodating.
Yeah.
The first one's very hard. Taking the first step in anything is always the biggest challenge.
Absolutely. And this is something I've taught well over 25 years. And honestly, until we accept something, we cannot actually move on. So acceptance for anything. For example, if one gets divorced, you have to accept. If you lose your job, you have to accept. If you like with this pandemic, we had to accept. Before you can actually do another thing, acceptance has to be there. One of the things I work a lot with is divorce, relationships, but also bereavement. And if we take bereavement, for example, and use the 3 A's, so imagine someone's been married for 30, 40, 50 years. That's very, very hard. You've had a unit, you've had your family, and your partner passes away. So one of the things we have to do is accept that the other person now has gone to a beautiful other place, but still they're not physically here. So that can take time. It's not something overnight, and it shouldn't be either. But until you get to acceptance, you can't really go to adjusting. So the one thing I really say to people, work on how you accept. Take time to accept, because it is a new normal for you, whether it's a divorce situation or a death or a change of a country, or for a lot of women, when children leave home, we have the empty nest syndrome. So again, suddenly for 20 years, 18 years, you've had the kids, you're super busy, and then suddenly it's just you and your husband, and it's a quiet house. So a lot of acceptance has to come there, and with that becomes a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of insecurity. So that's why acceptance is key, and you know, I teach a lot about how to do that.
Absolutely fabulous, because as you say, various situations, but it's the same thing. It comes down to the sense of loss.
Yes, absolutely. And once we can accept that this is now our natural way of being, whatever the situation is, we then go to adjust. So for example, if we use again bereavement, so you've lost your partner or you've lost somebody that you're really close with, how do you adjust? So if it was someone you were married to for a really long time in a happy marriage, the adjustment is now that you are not part of a couple. So you're going to have to adjust to going to places alone. You're going to perhaps have to do all the paperwork. Perhaps your husband was the one that did all the bills and paid everything. So there's an adjustment with that. There's an adjustment to suddenly that, you know, you're on your own. Your bed, suddenly it's half empty. You know, a lot of people say, I wake up and I look over and he's not there or she's not there. Again, it comes back to accepting and then adjusting. Another, now with the pandemic, we all had to accept that we've lost control to a certain extent. We have, if I told you all a year ago that we're going to be wearing masks, we're going to be told there's a curfew, we can only go to Mercadona and the pharmacy, when they tell us, I would beautiful as cuckoo or some kind of, fruitcake. But here we are, 8 months in, 9 months in, we had to accept. There was no other way. If we didn't accept, then fear, anxiety, a lot of negative things would have come in. So we've had to accept, and now we've been adjusting. So we've all been adjusting, some people better than others, but that's the key, adjust. And then we come to accommodate. How do we now accommodate into our lives? And that's using all things positive. That's like, okay, this is now our situation. I've accepted it. I've adjusted to it. Now, how can I make the best of it? How can I move forward? And that's, again, doing things like having a routine in the morning, say with the pandemic, waking up, having a routine. For me, one of the things that I've noticed with all my hundreds of thousands of clients is to do some form of exercise, because always when you do some kind of activity, you have a shift. Hormones, like your serotonin, your dopamine, the happy hormones, your endorphins, everything comes alive. So you could be feeling really awful when you wake up, full of anxiety, full of fear. But the minute you get out, you go into nature. We're so lucky where we live here in Marbella. We've got paradise on our doorstep. Whether you go into the mountains or you go down to the beach, I can promise you within 10 minutes you'll have a shift. So whatever worries you've got, it's not that they disappear, but they lessen for the time that you give yourself your me time. And, I personally like to do yoga, Pilates, take a walk. And you know what? It sets me up for the whole day, and I promise it will do the same for you.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating, and it shows, just hearing you speak, that you empathize and understand in the sense of, obviously, how you can help. You see those areas, and I highly recommend that anyone who feels identified gets in touch with you, because that is your speciality, health and well-being, but not just physical, particularly the mental.
I'm passionate about mental health, more and more and more. In my own family, I've seen it. My teenage son went through some very difficult times. With social media, they're always comparing, they're always looking at who's doing what, or they weren't invited to this party, or this one, looks prettier than me, skinnier than me, all of that. So as much as social media has its place, it can also be super dangerous. So we have to minimize our time on social media. And even now, with all the news with the pandemic, we have to do our own due diligence. We have to look at what the news is, but then we need to take our own responsibility and not take everything at face value. And there's plenty of positive, real news. We just need to research. And that, again, is going to help your self-worth, it's going to help your happiness, it's going to help you feel safer, because you've done your own work. And then you'll find one or two speakers who you really connect with, and you'll start following them, and then you'll have real news that resonates with you. So that's really important.
Thank you so much for your advice, and I know we'll be seeing you very soon in the studio at RTV Marbella. Thank you so much, Kezia.
Thank you so much for having me.